All right, hello everyone. I am the Pure Health Doc, and as ironic as it is, I'm actually sick. But sickness is actually a good thing, believe it or not. It's good to get sick once a year. I know people like to think that it's good to never get sick, but that's actually not true. The best immune systems actually get sick, but they get sick very quickly. They're over the symptoms within a day. They go through all the symptoms. They might have a short fever for an hour. They might feel really fatigued for a little while. They might get a little bit of a runny nose, but they're over it really quickly. And what's difficult sometimes is differentiate the people who say, I never get sick, and they actually never get sick, from those who say they never get sick, and they just don't remember because it was just a few hours or a day. The best immune systems are like that. You get sick once a year, you tune it up, you teach your body to fight other things so it doesn't end up fighting itself, like, cue autoimmune disease, cancer, stuff like that. What's cancer? Your immune system doesn't fight. What's autoimmune disease? Your body's fighting itself. It's not doing something it's supposed to do, or it's doing something it's not supposed to do. It's not communicating correctly. So the best immune systems, they will be over it really quickly. Then the next people are what I call the 3-dayers. They're the people that they're able to overcome with their innate immune system. There's two parts. There's an innate and adaptive immune system. The innate's kind of like the general soldiers. They're not trained with anything specific. They're just trained to kill anything that looks kind of weird. Then there's the, snipers. And the adaptive immune system trains snipers pretty much to go in and look at the specific thing that's bothering you, and it takes up to a week to make those antibodies specifically. So then you have the weakers. You have the 1-dayers, the 3-dayers, then you have the weak people, and then after that you see people go like 2 weeks sometimes, and that can be okay at times. But when I hear people that are like the month, the 2-month, the 3-month, these are the people that are like always fatigued. They're worn out, they don't feel well. And then you get the people that they never get sick, and they might be worn out too. And sometimes they might not even know it because they're just living in adrenaline every single day. And so they're not even self-aware of how they're feeling until they get home, and they just crash really quickly. But anyway, a good immune system does get sick sometimes. So that's why I'm here in my sick ensemble to talk to you about, what do you do when you get sick to help you get over things a little bit quicker. Your body is the healer. It's not any of the tools that, I'm going to share that I use, because disclaimer, none of this is for recommendation for you to go do. This is what I do. I'm just sharing because people ask me. So, this is the thing that people say, don't take this to be medical advice by any reason. If you have any questions, you can go see your personal healthcare provider and you can ask them about anything that, you learned about in this video. But this is for educational purposes only. And maybe a little entertainment. Although today is probably not the entertainment because I'm a little bit sick. Anyway, so when I get sick, the first thing that I do when I start to feel those symptoms, which, maybe for you it's a sore throat, maybe it's a little bit of a cough, or, some people, they'll report that they get sneezing or their ears will hurt. But whatever your first symptoms are, one of the first things I do is I start to fast. And the reason why fasting can be really useful, now when I say fast, I don't mean like religious fast, like no water or food. I'm not telling you to go out into the desert for 40 days. I'm talking about a water fast, or maybe a juice fast. If you take a break from eating for a little while, especially hard to digest foods, raw foods, uncooked foods, what happens is your body uses all that extra energy, because your body uses a ton of energy to break down fiber and nutrients and water. When your body's not having to separate all those things out, it uses that extra energy to clean house and to fix things. It's like when you have a week off of work and now your wife wants you to go fix everything around the house and do the honey-do list. Well, now you got the extra energy to do it because you're not doing the things that you're doing all the time. You're not working all the time. So when your body has that extra energy, it starts to heal a little bit faster. It can boost your immune system. It can help you get over things quicker. So for myself personally, I will do a water fast for usually, at least 24 hours. Sometimes I'll go more than that, but I'm always monitoring myself when I'm doing that. One of the first symptoms that happens when people do a water fast, because water fast can be very healing, but it's often medically supervised if you're doing it more than a certain time period. There's a clinic in California actually called True North, I believe, that does that. But you might feel a little bit tingly. You might feel a little weird. This is why it has to be medically supervised, because you can get really low in electrolytes. And electrolytes are, it really has a lot to do with the electricity and the communication and the signals that get sent throughout our system. Everything from how your heart contracts, how much energy you have. So I will often take, and this is just one of the things that I use, this is Electrolyte Supreme by Jigsaw. And by the way, I'm not paid by any of these. I'm just showing you the things that I use because I use a lot of products. And these are my go-tos currently, and they'll probably change as I learn more things and, people send me more samples of things, etc. And I get more feedback from patients. But electrolytes can be very important, especially if you're trying to do some type of water fast or even a juice fast sometimes, to make sure you're getting the electrolytes you need so your body can do all those processes. It doesn't take a lot of digestion to, absorb this. And that's why, it can be really helpful for you. We don't want to spend all that time digesting. Also, if you have a fever, I never eat when I have a fever. This is old school naturopathic stuff, but you starve a fever and you feed a cold. That's something you might hear. When you have a fever, your body is using all of its energy to try to fight off whatever's going on. It's raising your body temperature. It's using energy to raise your body temperature. So enzymes are more effective at killing off whatever's going on. A fever boosts your immune system. If you suppress a fever when you're sick, because it's not the fever that we're worried about, it's what's causing the fever. Seattle Children's Hospital had a great article probably about 5-10 years ago, and it was about how you should not be afraid of a high fever. Highest fever I've had is 106, 106.5, miserable. And that's really what the article said as well, was, the main reason we lower fever is because it's very uncomfortable. And, you get a fever that high, you don't have to be that miserable. But when you have a fever, it actually boosts your immune system. So if we suppress a fever, we can suppress the immune response that goes along with it. So I like to support a fever. I wear warm clothes. I keep my hat on, even though it annoys the heck out of my wife. I keep my beanie on. I wear long sleeves. I'll put on my 6 sweats a lot of times because, especially if I don't have a fever, I'm trying to keep my body warm and in some ways kind of induce a external fever, which is the main type of fever that can be dangerous if you're not staying hydrated. You can't cause brain damage. This is a huge fallacy. You can't cause brain damage from a fever. Your body's not going to set a set point that's going to damage itself. The kind of fever that can kill you is like dehydration. It's an external fever. You don't have enough water and there's lots of heat around you. You're in a sauna, you're sitting in a hot car, your dog's in a hot car. That can hurt you. That can cause brain damage. That can cause lots of organ damage. But a fever itself doesn't hurt you. What can hurt you is what's causing the fever. You got meningitis. Well, the meningitis can cause brain damage. That's not the fever causing the brain damage. The fever is a response to the meningitis. And if you have a high fever, well, then sometimes we have to look for, well, is there something serious going on? And if there's not, well, then, you don't have to worry about it. Just keep yourself as comfortable as you can be. But anyway, electrolytes are one of my go-tos in those situations. And then I often use tea. Just warm tea, give my body a little bit warmth in the tea. And these are just a couple that I use. This Polyarco, it has some benefit in these type of situations. And I mean, really, I'm not telling you to use any of these. I'm just kind of showing you what I use, and this was just laying around the house today. That's one of the reasons I know things about both these, this set of herbs and Polyarco that's useful in viral infections. With this specifically, there's several herbs in here that are beneficial to help I'm trying to keep my lungs healthy. So this upper respiratory infection, this cold, doesn't go into my lungs. So, peppermint, licorice boosts the immune system, gives you some energy. You have some thyme in here. That can be helpful for breathing as well. So eucalyptus, you're gonna open things up. So anyway, I'll use some type of tea. Vitamin D, I'm not gonna show you this because it's ugly. It's a compound that I made. It's just, I would make it nice if I sell it to patients, but this is for me, so I just labeled it for me. Nasal Spray is one of my latest additions. And I've got like 5 in my cabinet right now. This is just one that I decided to use this time to test out a new one. This has a lot of, whatchamacallit in it, capsaicin, cayenne pepper. Now that will clean out the sinuses. And the X-Clear, what should we call it? I don't know, I'm not remembering off the top of my head right now. The xylitol, it actually helps keep the bacteria from binding to the sinuses. So I'm trying to flush out things and I'm trying to get over this a little bit quicker, lower the burden that the body's gonna have to learn how to fight. Hemp oil, this is a new addition that I've been using in the last couple years. And one of the interesting things that came out of Oregon State University is they did a study that showed hemp will actually bind spike proteins. And if you've been paying attention at all, what's been going on in the last few years, there are several reasons why binding spike proteins could be very beneficial for you. So I'll use a little bit of hemp oil. Then I have my Standard Process things. Now the reason, Standard Process is probably one of the first supplement companies that I used as a professional. Because I was using it a little bit before being a professional. But there are several things that I will use from them. I'll go over just a couple of them. This is Emuplex right here. And what kind of goes along with that is, some extracts from the thymus gland. Now, why these are useful is, besides the vitamins, the vitamins and minerals that are in there, it has glands that are actually mostly driven from, bovine or cow. But when you're sick, if you use the glands that actually support the immune system and you consume them, they actually have a benefit on helping your immune system. And this is, again, old school naturopathic stuff, but that can be very helpful. So I'll use that. Echinacea. And this Echinacea, this brand has been my go-to for years. Though I've had some questions about it lately because it doesn't taste as metallic as it used to. So just a few things about Echinacea. For Echinacea to be potent, it needs to be stressed. If you're getting Echinacea that's been on a farm, it is not going to be that useful because it needs to go through the sunshine and the hot and the cold and, having some animal come and stomp on it and pee on it and the chemical changes around it. The more stress that it has, the stronger alkaloids and constituents are going to be in that plant. So Echinacea, when it's potent, can be very helpful. Historically, it was used for things like cellulitis, like bad infections, going to sepsis. So Echinacea is a really great herb. And most of my other, go-to supplements I have over here, now, I don't use all of these. I just, depending on what's going on, I'll tune and use a few. Sometimes I'll switch each day and I'll test out new things. But Echinacea is in almost every single one of these other ones that I use. And some of them are more of a viral combination. So they're going to have things like, oh gosh, what does this one have? Humic acid, olive leaf, oregano, elderberry. Another note about elderberry, I'll have moms come in all the time and they're giving their kid elderberry once a day. And honestly, that doesn't do a whole lot. Elderberry has a half-life that's very short. So you have to use elderberry like every 2 to 3 hours for it to be effective. But anyway, the other versions I'll use are more of an acute immune. And I'll just show you kind of some of the ingredients that are on the back here. But with acute immune, specifically, there's like mushrooms in here. Mushrooms are really great for just boosting the general immune system. Now, there's some controversy lately on mushrooms I'm reading about, and I'm always curious to learning more things because I don't know everything. And so I'm always researching and trying to figure out what I don't know. But mushrooms historically have been used very much for the immune system. There's actually a specific kind of mushroom that I was recommending to patients out of Japan, my cancer patients, that had a really high incidence of helping people in that situation. But anyway, then this is another one of my go-tos here. This is called BioVeg by Priority One. Now this guy is potent, especially if you chew it. Most of you probably wouldn't do that. There's actually something that happens when you chew a supplement, and I'll show you kind of what's in there. When you chew a supplement, it actually can be more potent. When your body tastes it, it can send signals to really absorb it, process it better. There's an interesting case of a kid that was born where his stomach and esophagus wasn't connected. And they were giving him, nutrition through a PICC line. And he wasn't getting any better. He was failing to thrive. And it wasn't until they took some food and put it into his mouth, even though it wasn't connected, for him to taste it, that the body finally started absorbing that stuff. Then I have some other ones. This one's interesting. This is called C-Biotic. A doctor I know actually formulated this. But this has some berberine in it, which is great for your blood sugar. Berberine, Oregon grape. There's several herbs that have berberines in them that are very helpful at being, kind of antimicrobial in general. This is garlic, oregano, caprylic acid. I actually use this for people that I think have a small intestine bowel overgrowth, IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, SIBO. That's what it was formulated for. But it's really helpful, honestly, as a cold supplement as well, I found. Zinc is definitely something that's helpful when you're sick. Now, everyone will go take their zinc lozenges and stuff like that. I really don't. I'm not convinced that that's actually a really helpful way to get zinc for a lot of people because of all the other junk that comes with them. The zinc that I use is called a zinc bisglycinate. And if you see the formulation of this one, it has other cofactors that help you absorb the zinc a little bit better. But zinc is definitely very helpful. But you have to remember when you're taking something like a metal, and zinc is a metal, that all metals can be toxic. We talk about heavy metals and we talk about, how they're toxic, arsenic and mercury and stuff like that. What really makes it, every time you eat a strawberry, you're getting some mercury. There's multiple forms of mercury, but it has to do with the dose and the form that you're getting because your body's made to process a lot of junk in this world. The last thing, and I've actually been experimenting with this one. This is part of my weight loss program that I've been messing with, and I have a pilot program I've been running with some people. But this has something in it called Gynostemma. Gynostemma is known as the herb of immortality. It's really helpful. It's really helpful for, it's called an adaptogenic herb. So it's helpful for multiple issues within the body. And it's also shown in studies to increase the life of things like rats and fruit flies and whatnot. But I've been using this because there's a lot of studies that have come out showing that it actually helps with weight loss, especially on the organs. So anyway, just to kind of sum everything up, it is important to get sick. So it's not something to be ashamed about or worried about, as long as you're not getting sick for too long, or you never get sick, like never even have sick symptoms. When you do get sick, fasting can be a really helpful tool to use. You have to be careful how many days you go for. You have to be self-aware when you do that. I'm not recommending you to do anything. I'm just sharing with you what I do. I went over some of the tools that I use supplement-wise. I make sure I keep my body warm. I make sure if I am eating that I'm eating like, very easy to process or easy to digest food. Cooked foods, cooked vegetables, vegetable broths, bone broth, stuff like that. And I get out in the sunshine. I visualize being healthy. I do grounding to stimulate the circulation in my body, and honestly, the voltage. That's a whole nother video that I'll probably do at some point. If you guys have any questions, I hope you enjoyed this little tour of what I do when I'm sick. If you have any questions, you're welcome to leave them in the comments, or you can email PureHealthDoc@gmail.com, which should be somewhere in this, on the page. But anyway, thanks for tuning in. Hope you have a great night. Talk to you later.